really excited to be working very closely with you. We've heard plenty from Nara already. And for having you here with us on our very first podcast series. We're titling it Fireside Chats with Industry Stalwarts. And as you're aware, we're going to be covering decentralized data platforms and their application today. For the benefit of our viewers, Kandola Network is a decentralized layer 1 platform for real-time messaging and general purpose transactions. And as a further way of introduction for you and for our viewers today, my name is Krithika, and I head marketing at Kandola Network. We have with us Nara as well. He leads research and will be driving a lot of conversation with you, Dr. Kar, today. And the most important bit, we'd like to introduce to our viewers a little more about you. So I'm going to take the liberty and jump straight into that. Dr. Soummya Kar is currently a professor of electrical and computer engineering at Carnegie Mellon University. He received a BTech in electronics and electrical communication engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology at Kharagpur in India in 2005, and a PhD in electrical and computer engineering from Carnegie Mellon in 2010. His research interests span decision-making in large-scale networked systems, stochastic systems, and machine learning as well. He is a fellow of the IEEE. We're extremely happy to have you kickstart this very engaging discussion series. And sort of with that, I think I shall hand it over to Nara to take the conversation forward.
Thank you, Krithi. And thanks, Soummya, for being here. As Krithi said, we are beginning our podcast series, and we want to engage experts from industry and academia on discussions on various key problems that we want to solve. All the key elements of building a general purpose layer 1 blockchain. So that's essentially the subject of our podcast series. The impression I've had with the trends as of today is we are living in a very centralized world where there are big, in fact, key central providers who offer a lot of services, very well engineered services to people in the form of email, social media, instant messaging, video chat, and many other applications. These applications are available for free, but the whole trade-off in the process has been that users' data resides at the servers of all of these centralized providers. So there is, in terms of data privacy and data security, we are invariably trusting a central authority, a central entity, and this has been the trend. And decentralization, in my opinion, is going to change the entire paradigm, where we own the data and the services that we would need are provided by a peer-to-peer network with no central authority. So I wanted to begin a question with you on this note. What are you in building a decentralized platform for real-time data transfer? What are the challenges that you envisage that anyone has to cross?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question, and I think you did a very nice summary of the current state and why we are there. So let me just back up a little bit. So one of the things, so we are trying to get there in terms of like the ethos or the promise of Web3. But really, if you look at these dominant companies, okay, if we basically go back to their inception, the focus has been very application specific, right? So they have some idea, some application, and they want to monetize it quickly, okay? And the internet back then, maybe it's just 20 years ago or so, it was just entering the cycle of mass adoption, okay? And there really, I think the focus was that, okay, I have this technology, how can I use it or scale it and maintain it, okay? So that I can serve users, and that's also, that will lead to good business opportunities. So that's why I think we have basically historically seen this trend, right? I mean, big companies dominant players, they're very application specific. Now, some of the downside is that that's why data resides in these silos, if you will, right? So you have a very specific application, there is good research going on, but the data that is being curated, managed, it corresponds to that application, okay? And that has been, the focus of these companies, okay? And also, I think another issue is really security and privacy, which you mentioned, right? So if you still look at the landscape, even a lot of small or medium scale businesses even, they just started investing in security. Okay, so there is a lot of liability there per se. That, well, I mean, if I try to open up a lot, what would be the security implications, okay? And we know that security technology, that's developing, I mean, and that's going to develop, but there is always a lag between deployment and, what's achieved in research. So, so security concerns, I think that's one big issue that basically, led to the current state of what we call the Web 2. And of course, privacy as well. Again, another sort of liability, if you will, that if the data is too open, okay, unless I have the right protocols, how can I ensure, the users or the ones that I'm providing service to, that their data is private and secure. So these naturally, I think, lay out the key things that we need to overcome.
Correct.
If we want to go to the next phase, okay, which is the Web 3. So security, I think, is really a key issue, in terms of enabling this, what we want to call the trustless and fully open web, which is peer-to-peer. There is no central curator or coordinator.
Correct.
So security research has caught up. I mean, so we are getting there. I'm very optimistic that we will get there. It's just a matter of time. And it's exciting to see that, new ideas are coming up every day.
Correct.
And also based on the discussions that we had, I mean, this is, I think, a good step in the right direction.
Very nice. Thank you. As you're aware, Kandola is building a layer 1 blockchain for decentralized data transfer. And we are calling our consensus protocol as the proof of real-time transfer. You had a chance to take a preview of this protocol. What were your earliest thoughts and feedback?
Yes, absolutely. This was very interesting. So one of the things, again, goes back to some of the things that we discussed, that if you look at the current state of the web, I mean, both in terms of infrastructure and businesses, it's very application specific, okay? So to have this, large usage where you want to cater to different types of users, have different types of players, as well as make it as open as possible and easy as possible. One thing we need is these general purpose protocols, okay? So that's one good aspect, which I found quite exciting, that, because if you look at this, and the underlying applications that one would envision to support, I mean, this could be simply information exchange, as well as doing analytics on data, okay? And we all know that data comes in various forms, okay? So, and the applications, the use cases, they would be very different. So a general purpose platform, okay, where one can provide guarantees that, about the quality of service.
Correct.
That actually is very important, and that's definitely an interesting aspect which I found very useful. The other aspect, I think it relates to the first, which is this message, standardization.
Yes.
Okay. So that I think is, again, I mean, this is going to be a key enabler of the first thing that we discussed, okay? That we should be able to somehow have these diverse sources of data. The end users would like to use the data for different types of applications, okay? It could be data used in medical diagnostics. It could be data in an industrial warehouse, the typical IoT setup.
Correct.
One would like to support all these use cases. And for the network to be able to run seamlessly and scalably, you need some sort of unification, standardization. So that aspect, I saw, and that's, a pretty interesting and useful aspect. Related to that, the scalability, okay? I mean, clearly for Web3 type solutions, the core workhorse is always a consensus type algorithm, right? And we want to make it more scalable, okay? I mean, of course, there are fundamental trade-offs, but I guess the issue here is that by, just focusing on the data transfer and perhaps not encountering some of the issues faced by, the more common blockchains like Bitcoin, for instance, okay, where it's a peer-to-peer electronic cash. So you have other types of guarantees you need to provide.
Okay.
One can make it more scalable, okay, support higher throughput. Okay, so that is something I saw, and that's a very useful trait. And also the security guarantees, the way signatures, authentication, all these things are happening. They're based on standard verifiable primitives. Okay,
right.
So that would allow someone who is reviewing the protocol, or another developer who joins the team, or maybe wants to advance it, it would make it more accessible. Okay, simply to add to either the protocol, or if there is another layer built on top of this. So again, goes back to the usability and the accessibility issue, which I find quite interesting. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So as you mentioned, our platform provides guarantees for end-to-end security. Our protocol ensures that the data will remain wholly private. Only the owner of the data would be able to read it. And as you also mentioned, a key aspect of making this a successful decentralized platform for a general purpose transaction would be in order to achieve a transaction throughput that is much higher than what we've seen in the decentralized finance world. We are looking at applications in the Internet of Things space, in healthcare, in instant messaging, in gaming. So we have a whole set of users who are dispersed all around the world, who have to communicate with one another, and this platform is envisaged to be able to handle the entire throughput seamlessly. So given that we have a Bitcoin network and an Ethereum network, which have been successful, have been used predominantly for financial transactions, Kandola is envisaging a layer 1 blockchain for a general purpose transaction. So we are taking on a much bigger problem, a problem that needs a lot more throughput, lot more robustness to a crash. So we, in terms of either CFT or BFT, which would stand for crash fault tolerance, or Byzantine fault tolerance, the expectations of a decentralized platform of this kind are very high. So from just the scalability aspect, given that your background is in distributed aspects of systems, distributed systems, what would be the key elements from addressing scalability?
Yes, I mean, now of course, I mean, if one directly jumps to the matrix, I mean, throughput, having a high throughput is important. Okay, I mean, depending on based on the types of applications that you just mentioned that you want to support. The issue here would be that so there are again, I think the focus then, so there is always a trade-off between high throughput and Byzantine resiliency, right? I mean, so unfortunately we don't have free lunch. right? I mean, if things were like that, the world would have been a much, let's just say, easier, but perhaps not very interesting place. So I think balancing the fault tolerance and the security guarantees,
right?
Okay, while supporting high enough throughput. Okay, I think these really are to be addressed in terms of scaling this up. Okay, now the other issue here is, again, this goes back to one of the things that I mentioned, which is very particular of Web 2 systems. And also, you mentioned Bitcoin and Ethereum is they support one specific application. I mean, at least primitively, they support one specific application. Okay. But here, the idea is, okay, it's going to be a general purpose messaging platform, which means there will be different types of users, okay, with different priorities, okay, different capabilities, and different end goals. So to that extent, seamlessness in participation is another thing that's important, okay? So for instance, to be able to actively participate, into the network and gain something out of it, there shouldn't be too much of a burden for the user. Okay, that is, I shouldn't be making too much of an investment. Okay, if I want to gain access to the service as well as participate in the service or provide some service, to others, and this leads to the interconnected issue of incentivization. Okay, so how do you want to incentivize, different users, knowing that this platform, since its general purpose, is going to have very different types of users, okay, in terms of capabilities and in terms of objectives as well, and in terms of course, the tasks they want to function once, they exchange or share information. So that's why, I mean, this is kind of a very interesting case where the issues of, the typical technical issue, which is one is to support very high throughput, okay, for enabling real-time applications, okay, like IoTs and stuff like that. Of course, the protocols need to be resilient, okay. And then there should be ease of participation and access. And the success of any such system eventually depends on being able to support more and more users over time. So there should be proper incentivization, procedures in place. And this collective design, I think, is very, very important and as well as very interesting. And yeah, so I'm excited that you are, taking on this challenge and making progress there. This can actually open up a lot of opportunities, to support applications in a way that that we currently aren't able to do.
Right. So I've been in the Internet of Things space myself, and from the time where video cameras have been commissioned into broad landscape of surveillance applications. So various sensors are being integrated into homes. As an example, it could be a video camera or a doorbell camera, a door open and close sensor, or it could be even a temperature sensor in the home. So all of these sensors currently are sending their data to a central server, and this central server will process the data and push notifications to the end user, and the end user based on their definition of events will get those event notifications. And this has been an extremely valuable service to end customers, with the only catch of all of their data ending up at the hands of the service provider. This data may be encrypted. It may in some cases the encryption standards may not be as high as the end user would prefer. So it depends upon who your service provider is. I'm envisioning a picture where the end user will get to select the sensors of their choice, not be in fact restricted to a specific set of devices which are supported by one company. Rather, go to an open marketplace where you get to select the devices of your choice, commission them onto a decentralized platform, start getting notifications of the events that they've defined, and save this data onto a blockchain that A is immutable, and B, encrypted data on blockchain, so only they have access to that data. So this is the vision in terms of how Internet of Things can be applied on a decentralized data platform as Kandola. And this can also lead to the users owning their own decentralized data marketplace. So today data is required for many AI applications, and this data is not easily available. A decentralized data marketplace can come out of a decentralized data platform, and that is one of the aspects that can unlock a lot of potentials that this platform can serve. So a question regarding this particular trend that I'm envisioning is, what would it take for a successful Web2 company today to start adopting this Web3 notion, where there is decentralization and still be in the game? Is that something that you're envisioning?
Yeah. So you mean specifically Web2 companies participating in this open marketplace?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think well, some of the things you touched upon. So now clearly, when you have this very centralized paradigm, right? I mean, the data is being stored somewhere, and then all the access control as well as security is being managed by one entity. I mean, it actually worked very well, for various applications, as we know. Now, one issue, other than what we are envisioning that, or we were discussing about very widespread adoption, okay, different types of users who can seamlessly participate. So that's one issue which I think is not very seamlessly addressed by the current centralized architectures. But the other issue is also not just security of the data. Okay, that's a very important issue, but also this issue of transparency, right? So once you have your data, and these sensors, the data, say, goes to one entity, okay, the data is perfectly managed and everything, but for instance, you may not know what type of end users the data is serving. Okay, so there could be a lack of accountability, if you will. Okay, and these are, I think, important issues. So once the data is in an open marketplace, I mean, specifically say on a blockchain, I mean, then everything is transparent. Okay, I mean, not only you get to ensure that, the data, that was, or the service that's being provided by you is faithfully provided. Okay, but at the same time, you exactly know the nature of transactions, who is getting the service. So this thing, I think, is very important to to open up applications like, for instance, crowd sensing, and the types of other applications you mentioned in a very transparent way as we scale up this type of an open marketplace. And I think once this is there, an existing Web2 entity, again, I mean, the transparency is important here, right? I mean, if you know where your data is going, what type of use cases it's serving, and you have the incentive to use that platform, I think transitioning for a Web2 player would be, at least in principle, seamless. So, so that's yeah, those would be, my thoughts on this matter. Yeah.
So this, in fact, a Web2 players, so a decentralized platform of this sort, if we take just the IoT space, it can actually increase the market space for a Web2 player, because now you're not limiting yourself to a specific set of customers, but you're opening it out to anyone who would like to use your IoT device for their service. And this platform can end up supporting the traffic and data processing that you were hosting in your own cloud. So that's the paradigm shift that we are envisioning that this platform can provide. It would be a slow but gradual shift is my early take. People have to warm up to the idea of owning their own data. So far, we are all so much trained to being offered services in return for our data. Can there be both? Can there be, you get the services that you were getting originally, but you also get to control your data and share it only with people, only with entities, companies that you wanted to share it with. So that's the level of control that this platform is envisioned to provide. So a lot of very very personal applications, applications which are close to my heart. As an example, I'll just have one more example on this space. If we take healthcare, if a patient today goes and gets he schedules his annual checkup, and there are X-rays and various scans and blood reports, all of these are being taken. The data is not his to begin with. The data belongs to the hospital. The data belongs to the lab. It could be made available to the patient, but it's not the other way around. When we are building a decentralized data platform, we will have to be able to, from the point of origin, the data belongs to the patient, and the patient should be able to make his reports available to a healthcare provider. So that's the engineering pipeline that our team has been working on, and thanks to the many advances in cryptography, in distributed systems, and game theory, we've been able to come up with interesting protocols that bring in a verification to the actions provided by the entities that make the decentralized network. So the key aspect is to bring in this level of verification at extremely high rates, so we are able to support the demands of such a decentralized platform. So that's one of our goals. Wanted to ask you, if you look at blockchain as a space, and it has evolved in terms of use cases over the years. If you have to pick two top innovations in the space, which ones would you think they are?
There are actually, great innovations happening all the time. Okay, so I'll certainly, the technological progress, that's definitely the useful metric, but also for historical reasons. I would say, basically, so to me, Bitcoin, I think, is a great success. Okay, and the reason I say so is because you have to start somewhere. Correct. Right? And you have to show and lead the way. And that's typically what happened. Now, interestingly, now from a technological viewpoint, I mean, so a lot of my own research, it focuses on fundamental limits of, consensus protocols, mechanisms for that. And of course, in the academic community, for instance, a lot of focus, I mean, before Bitcoin, okay, it was so distributed consensus protocols, Byzantine consensus, I mean, these things existed. And the focus was really on, oh, okay, these are very hard problems. Okay, this is, so we would publish papers which are like impossibility proofs. Okay, you cannot do this. Or if you have to do this, the complexity would be huge. And then I think Bitcoin was one of the first examples where you provide an engineering solution to this problem. Okay, I mean, you try to give some guarantees, but the key idea is that, okay, let's try to see under practical sets of considerations and assumptions, rather than being a lot of really complex hypotheticals, what we can actually do. And that, I think, sparked a whole lot of research leading to what we are seeing today. So, so that is one, of course, favorite innovation, I would say. And I think, since then, the applications, things like what Kandola is doing and other companies are doing, okay, using the blockchain, okay, coming up with different consensus protocols to support and open up the web to different types of applications. Okay, that always generates a lot of excitement for me. So, yeah.
Glad you're excited with our promises, and we have come a long way in terms of building a consensus protocol. We are at this point building our testnet, and soon we will be announcing it to the world. And we envision partners who can come and test our platform and give us feedback, and then we will go mainnet. So that's the track that we are working on, and we are very happy to have you as one of our collaborators in the space. In terms of milestones that you would want Kandola to cross in the near term, what would be your key recommendations?
Yeah, I would say, I think we discussed these issues. I think, yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the testnet. So I think the throughput analysis, to basically see, under various regimes of operations, which means number of nodes, connectivity, all these things, how the throughput scales.
Correct.
That type of analysis, I think, is critical. That would give, very valuable input or feedback in terms of when and what can be supported. Okay.
Correct.
The other thing, again, it's related to this. It's not just throughput and low latency, but also the security assurances.
Right.
Okay. So,
correct.
Now the thing that I mentioned, one interesting aspect of the proof of real-time transactions, that protocol, it's based on standard verifiable primitives. So using those to actually give formal assurances. So I think that would be another milestone. The message standardization, I think that's already built in the protocol. Okay, but to showcase that more, that basically would attract the attention of different types of possible users, okay, as well as service providers. Okay, so and the seamlessness. Okay, so if I want to, so ideally what I would envision from such an open marketplace for data is like this. I am a researcher, okay, sitting some corner, okay, while very remote or whatever, and I think I have done some good research, okay, and I have generated some very useful data. I should be able to participate right away.
Nice. Okay.
So
have you participate? We'll have you participate right away once we have testnet.
Exactly. So the seamlessness of being able to participate in the system and the accountability that comes with it, right? So we discussed about this issue, the accountability. So one thing is that, okay, my data is mine. I know that. My data is not being tampered. I also know that. Okay. And I also know who the end users of my data would be. Okay. Correct. So that thing we discussed. The other way also, is equally important. if I am getting data from someone, or some type of data, I need to be aware of, okay, what was the source of the data? Okay. And all these things like transparency, accountability, and ease of participation. I mean, I think these things, they are important milestones and metrics, of course, with measurable quantities like high throughput and showing resilience guarantees. So I would expect or would love to see, milestones kind of centered around these quantities or these ideas.
Sure, absolutely. TestNet has been a key focus of our team currently, and we are building Steam. We should be announcing it to the world once it's ready, and we'll definitely invite you as a partner to be able to test applications on our network and give feedback. With that, I will transfer it over to Krithi. Krithi?
Sure.
I'll put you on spotlight just a minute.
Thank you so much, because it was extremely engaging for me. And I'm sure it will be for our viewers as well. There were a few bits of the conversation that really stood out. Going back to the very first part where we were talking about decentralized data platforms itself, and you mentioned that standardization is going to be a key enabler for end users to be able to use their data. That's the purpose of a general purpose data platform. But the passing that control of data ownership back to users, and then for them to be able to use to their will across multiple domains and across multiple use cases and application, I think that's going to be key. We're going to definitely keep that in mind. I think another tidbit or something that you mentioned was, balancing high throughput, the importance of balancing high throughput as well as, fault tolerance limits, right? And that getting that balance right without really compromising on the security aspects or transparencies is going to be really key as well. So that was very insightful too. Regarding widespread adoption, Dr. Kar, you were mentioning it's not just security, but it's also the transparency of the data. Which is also associated with the lack of accountability in today's Web 2 world. And having that complete transparency is what blockchain brings to the space. And Kandola is always going to keep that at the forefront, right? Transparency, accountability, ease of participation with high throughput. It seems like those are the key milestones that we're going to have to cross. And we're going to be very excited to display them, be able to showcase this ability on our platform. And we will be more than excited to invite you to participate as soon as it goes live in the weeks to come.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I'm looking forward to the developments. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. We truly appreciate it. And for all of our viewers, please make sure to keep following our podcast series. Do like, share, subscribe to our videos, and we will keep bringing them to you. Thank you. Thanks all.
Thanks. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.